folks, welcome to Bantha Fodder. If you're enjoying this music, you can check it out. I'll put you a link. This is from my music only channel. No talking, just music. Actually, I think there's one talkie video where I explain how I make the music. I explain like what hardware and what software I use, mostly Ableton Live. So you can check that out if you're enjoying that more relaxed kind of music. I am working on a major guitar work, like a large scale guitar work for solo guitar. So that's ongoing. I haven't been able to pump out any demos of that yet, and I'm still developing the ideas because it's longer and I'm really only able to work maybe 30 minutes a day right now. It's coming kind of slow, but it'll get there. I have the first, I'd say I have movement 1 and 3 are done. Movement 2 is 50% done. And movement 4 is kind of still in the early stages of me developing a lot of the ideas that I want to put into that movement. So it'll be a full sonata, be a full 4 movement sonata, fairly long piece. So that's what I'm working on musically. You can, of course, still join my Patreon and help support me in that little project, as well as get some music and books as part of the Patreon membership. So you can check that out, linked in the chat. And of course, don't forget to follow my Substack. I usually publish an article every week, sometimes more, sometimes a lot more. It just depends on if I have something to sell or not. So today we're going to make fun of some AI bros like this. The fodder for making fun of AI just never seems to dry up. And it's partly because AI usually comes off looking, even if we're like, this is good for AI, it always comes out looking kind of uncanny. And then the people who make it are so up their own asses with making AI that you can't help but laugh at them. And you probably laugh more if they weren't so obnoxious about it. It's like, you know, when you have somebody who's like mentally disabled start screaming obscenities, the first time that happens, you kind of think it's funny. But when it continues, then it starts to become annoying and obnoxious, and we're kind of at that stage where the Dunning-Kruger effect is so powerful for them that they literally can't understand why people don't like them, or why people hate what they're doing, or why people don't have any respect for what they're doing. But I'll explain it a little bit as we go, plus some other topics for today. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the first topic for today, which is going to be the AI silliness. Let me pull this up. So McDonald's did an AI ad. I don't know if you guys saw the like Coca-Cola AI ad, but McDonald's did an AI ad, and I'll show it to you in just a second here because it's been pulled off YouTube. So the response to it was so negative. It had been so negative that they ended up pulling it off of YouTube, and it was negative for a couple of reasons. The first reason, as you'll see, is that it's incredibly negative on Christmas. It's calling Christmas the most terrible time of the year. And that appeals to someone maybe like me who's not a big fan of Christmas. And it can work for general populations if it's something like Jingle All the Way starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, like a comedy. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do a comedic, entertaining commercial. But it doesn't come off that way because of how kind of ugly and inauthentic AI stuff is. And then it's in that very uncanny valley. But let's go ahead and take a look, and then I will talk about why people don't like AI. For anybody that's maybe on the fence, like I'm trying to figure out why people don't really like this, I will go ahead and break it down for you. Let me see if I can get this picture-in-picture working. Hold on. All right, let's pause it for a second. Here, I'm going to get it nice and big, and I'm going to pause the music. Here we go. Where is it? Lower center. Boom. Here we go. Okay. So let's see if I can get this. Now, the thing is it's off YouTube. Maybe we could get into copyright issues because technically, I mean, I don't know even if it's, who's that? Oh, that's, who's that? From Mr. Big. Anyway, I don't even know if this AI stuff can be copyrighted. It's still kind of a gray area whether like it could be copyrighted material because no creator made it. That makes any sense. All right, let's watch it real quick, and you'll see what I'm talking about here.
It's the most terrible time of the year. The roast turned to charcoal and the cookies burned too. Freaking chaos, it feels like a zoo. It's the most terrible time of the year. So you flee from the madness, the lights and the cheer, and hide out in McDonald's till January's here.
Now, if you're wondering why that last part is in Dutch, it's because this is McDonald's Netherlands. So, right off the bat, one of the weirder things about this McDonald's AI commercial is that it's supposed to be a commercial for the Netherlands, and it's entirely in English with like an American Christmas song. And it's a parody of that American Christmas song, and everything in it's in English until you see some Dutch words kind of pop up at the end. And that was right away. That was something that was kind of funny to me. I didn't realize it was an ad for the Netherlands until the very end of it. So why do people hate this ad, and why do people hate AI in particular? So for an ad like this, people hate AI ads like this, partly because they're uncanny. They look weird. And that's the easiest way to quantify it for like a normie, is that they just look weird. They look off. They don't look right. Something about them doesn't sit well. There's always something that's wrong with the details. There's something that's wrong with the geometry of the rooms. There's something wrong with the way the people move or the cat moves. There's something wrong with the way the tree opens up. There's always something wrong with the scene in general. Why there's a smokestack coming out of the garage and stuff like that. There's always a little, and even though it's happening very quickly, so we shouldn't pick up those details, our mind is so good at finding those differences and alerting us to things that are out of place. The whole commercial ends up feeling out of place, uncanny, and strange. So that's the first reason, is that it just isn't pleasant. It's not pleasant to look at. The second reason is that it is AI. So once you know it's AI, you're going to be making some judgments about what this mega corporation is doing with their money and doing with your time and attempting to do with AI. This is more in, I guess, the social matrix of it, but I think consumers increasingly are understanding that AI is worthless, that it's inherently worthless, that it has no value, because the whole point of generative AI, we're talking about generative AI here, not like AI used to crunch data or something like that. The whole point of generative AI is to save labor. It doesn't produce, as we can see from this commercial, it doesn't produce anything better than what we'd get if you actually hired someone to shoot all of those scenes. And I can actually tell you why the McDonald's commercial is probably a best case scenario for the current use of large language models to generate video or generate images. It's probably the best use case. So when a mega corporation is giving you an AI ad, they spent almost no money on it. Now, there was a firm supposedly that made it of jokers and idiots. I don't know what else to call them, like fakers, right? A mega corporation should be able to shoot a real commercial. And so when a consumer sees an AI commercial from a mega corporation, whether it's this one or it's that Coca-Cola one with all of the, like the hedgehogs in the snow, and I don't know what they were thinking, and the all the trucks that have the wrong number of axles all the time. What consumers pick up from that is you, this mega profitable corporation, are refusing to spend any money on an ad. You're cheap, right? You're intentionally trying to save labor in a place. And I think it's extra bad for McDonald's because you're trying to save labor on something that's supposed to be comedic. You're trying to deliver a comedic commercial like what you would see like on the Super Bowl or something. And the result is that it's not funny and is in fact a little bit offensive. It's like you giant McDonald's corporation couldn't go shoot these scenes with some people. And I think that's a fair judgment. And even if you're like, well, you know, they need to make profit. It's just the Netherlands. It's not as big a market as the entire United States. There's no reason this ad couldn't be shown in the United States, by the way. It's entirely in English. So it could be an American ad if they wanted it to be an American ad, or it could be a worldwide ad. Americans wouldn't blink at the fact that the scenery looks like Amsterdam. They wouldn't care about that at all. They just wouldn't, right? They would just kind of interpret it as like part of the part of the commercial, I guess. So you get this mega corporation doesn't want to spend the time and money to make a real ad. They just want to just throw interns at some AI prompts and like call it a day. Yeah, you're going to have a very negative view of both the ad and the corporation, especially when it's failed comedy. When comedy fails to hit, there's an extra emotion that gets attached to it that is just really hard to describe or properly qualify. It's almost like a pathos, like a reverse pathos. You feel cringe. Cringe is the closest word that I can think of for this. It's a feeling of discomfort from how embarrassing someone else is. Like someone else is feeling embarrassment and shame, and that kind of resonates with you in a sympathetic sort of way, and you feel those feelings. That's the feeling that you get from this commercial or anything where comedy fails, and it's extra offensive that they, mega corporation didn't do that. Now, that being said, I think the McDonald's commercial is probably the best use case for large language models making generative video that we've seen so far, and the main reason is that it's really hard to have consistency across time. You can have the AI generate a few seconds at a time, and that's consistent with itself. But if you are, for instance, trying to do a movie and you need the actors to look the same in every scene, that's a lot harder to do. And in fact, I've never seen anybody pull it off. I've only seen actors kind of look similar from scene to scene. Like even if you're doing somebody who really knows what they're doing and they already know filmmaking and they're trying to do a car driving down the street, as soon as you change camera angles, it's a different car. So this is a good use case because it's just a collection of scenes. Now, some of the scenes are really ridiculous and kind of make no sense and look really weird and uncanny and strange. And you can sometimes see that like the cars are not real, like this strange bicycle contraption that you've got going on. There's a lot of things that are kind of uncanny about it. And I think those uncanny things probably got through because of the AI Dunning-Kruger effect. That is, the people using AI aren't really capable of judging its outputs accurately. That's just something I've seen very consistently from people promoting AI and creating things with AIs. They aren't capable of judging the outputs of whatever the large language model that they're using to produce these effects is. So the best use case, I think, is like a big collection of scenes. And then you don't need the consistency from scene to scene at all. You can just have a bunch of little scenes that get stuck together. And that's going to be the best way that AI is going to actually present itself, I think. So that being said, yes, I think this is probably the best case that we're going to see for AI. Is going to be this McDonald's ad, but people still don't like it. So if you're a corporation and you're doing advertising, there's a lot of different things that you can go, like avenues you can go down, but understand that people are going to judge a mega corporation using AI differently than they're going to judge some random small business using an AI voice to list the product specifications of a pair of shoes. For McDonald's, the standard is higher. There's a lot of brand value in McDonald's. And when you use AI, you are signaling that the brand value is low and that you don't really care about interacting with your customers. You don't really care about the value that you're giving them. You care more about corporate profits, which is why you're making something very cheap and crappy and asking them to like it, right? Maybe then that would extend to the food. Oh, okay, yeah, maybe you really don't care about producing a good quality food experience for us either. And I think what's really interesting is you can contrast this with, McDonald's ads in other countries where they're really just there to show you, to present an idea with like family eating the food or something like that, or just what the food is and what the food tastes like. It's just a more direct advertisement rather than trying to entertain you and being like, by the way, brand. I hope you find these scenes funny. By the way, brand. None of the scenes were funny. They were just cringe. So it comes off really, really bad. So that's why I think people really don't like AI, especially from large corporations that really ought to be able to afford something better. We expect them to do something better. We expect them to do better. They have the money to actually hire filmmakers to do this. Now, what's really funny about this is Some of the reactions to this, the studio behind it says they hardly slept for several weeks while writing AI prompts and refining the shots. AI didn't make this film, we did. Like, this is the most unserious statement that I can think of. The entire point of generative AI is that it's easy and an idiot can do it. That's the entire point. The point is not to make it hard. If it was hard to do, you could have shot the freaking commercial. You could have gone out on the street. You could have said, we want these scenes. You could have hired a couple of directors. You could have hired some actors. Actors work for peanuts. You don't even have to script anything. There's no script for this. You just go out and you shoot a couple of things and you edit it together in Final Cut Pro or whatever, and there's your commercial. You could have just done the thing. And this reminds me of a guy who was posting on X, and he's like, I wrote 4,000 words of my thesis in only 4 hours. I'm like, to a complete idiot, 4,000 words sounds like a lot. If you actually know your thesis, which you're supposed to know as a graduate student, right? Your thesis or your dissertation or whatever, writing 4,000 words on it should be no problem. That should be 4 hours of work. I write 1,000 words an hour, and I'm really not going fast. I write 1,000 words an hour of fiction where I'm really having to think about what I'm doing and having to write really good prose, not just functional sentences. If I'm writing nonfiction, I could still write 1,000 words an hour without any problem if I know the subject. I used to routinely write 5,000 word essays in a night, no sweat, right? So if you're an experienced writer and if you just wrote, you could just write the 4,000 words in 4 hours. Instead of doing all this complicated nonsense to try to get the AI to generate your thing, which will be full of mistakes and you still won't know the information because you didn't write it. So it's one of these funny things whenever somebody says, well, this was a lot of work. Well, then what's the point? What's the point of the AI if it's a lot of work? If it's a lot of work, just go do the thing. Do you know how much work it was for me to have this AI song? It's like, I'm sure it was less work than actually recording the song, which is the point. Don't complain about it being a lot of work when the point is to not do the work. I think consumers more than ever are instinctively understand that AI doesn't require work. It's why teachers are trying to stop AI, is that the student will just ask the AI for the answer because that's less work. We're going to have the AI draw the art because that's less work. It's less work than trying to learn how to be an artist. It's less work than drawing the art. That was the big controversy with the George R.R. Martin AI art. It's like this guy had, and somebody actually put this in, like this guy had only 6 months to do this. I'm like, are you aware? And he had to do, it was like 24 illustrations. I'm like, are you aware that like John McCarthy would do like 2 30-page books a month? Where every page had multiple drawings on it that he'd like penciled and inked. Now, he didn't color them, but coloring in comics is not a big deal. The point is, he did a lot. If you're actually good, you can put out a lot of work and it can be extremely high quality. I don't know too many people who think Big John McCarthy is a bad artist. Do you know what I mean? So, that's my big point with all of that. I should have silenced my phone. But that's my big point with all of that, is like people instinctively understand that AI is worthless because it requires no effort. It requires no skill. And when a corporation is asking you to watch an ad that required no effort, required no skill, it's not good for the brand. It doesn't enhance the brand value. In fact, does the opposite. It makes the brand feel more negative than it otherwise would be, if that makes sense to you guys. I'll get to the next topic in a minute. I think I need to respond to a message. Forgot to text my neighbor to tell him to pick up the daughter. All right. Okay. Let's respond to chat a little bit, then we'll get to the next story, okay? Boom, boom, boom. All right. Here we go. I'm here for the fodder. It's the poo-poo post. The price of fodder is inflated. Well, you just have to buy more banthas and you'll have more. Oh, no, wait. You just have to buy, you just have to buy more fodder. You have to improve the logistics of the Bantha Fodder. Photoshop is AI. Photoshop is not AI. Now, there is AI in Photoshop. You can get Photoshop to generate things, but it's not AI. Not at all, actually. The way people move in that ad is really unsettling. Yeah, there's always something uncanny about it. It's not there yet. So we can still detect AI, and people feel it more than they can like quantify. Oh, that they're like, this feels weird. It feels weird. There's a lot of comedy violence there, like a woman being dragged by a bus. Yeah, I don't find that funny, and I don't know. Maybe it's because AI can't really pull off comedy yet. Like I've heard, Chat GPT try to write jokes, and most of the time it's like there's something missing from the joke. There's, it's just not there. AI bros do tend to be very pretentious. AI's first problem is bad branding. We have an idea built off decades of sci-fi media, and what we have is not that. Okay, that's an excellent point, right? Yeah. The cat jumping on the tree looked very off, like the footage was reversed. And we only watched the commercial one time, and here it is. It'll be preserved forever on this channel. But even that one watching of things that are happening really quick, that's why I say it's the best use case scenario is like a commercial, because it's quick. You won't notice the crappiness. You don't need consistency from scene to scene. It's really the best use of AI video. Is to produce commercials and things like that. And to be honest, like if somebody like had a tiny brand and they were using an AI commercial like this to promote their tiny brand, and they're like, I did this in my garage, I did this on a Saturday afternoon to sell my Etsy shop or something. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. They've sure become sophisticated, though. Not all too long ago, AI vids didn't look like anything at all. Oh, that's true. A couple years ago, they were just like, they looked like nightmares. They looked like nightmares. So they have gotten better. And I think it's often a mistake to extrapolate and think that line goes up forever, because what we saw is AI got better, and then it plateaued, and it hasn't gotten better in several years. Or the degree to which it's getting better is so incremental, it's so slow, that the idea that you can have an AI movie is really far off. Or what I had kind of thought was like, if it eventually gets good enough, you won't need prompt bros asking a robot to do things and pretending like they're actually operating software, because you're not, right? You're asking a robot to do a thing. Instead, people will just be like, I want a movie that's like Alien versus Predator, but with teddy bears and alligators. And then the computer will just generate it for you. AI is a loaded term. When does a program become AI? Yeah, we're talking about large language models. I mean, you should know what we're talking about by now. If you're having trouble understanding what we're talking about, I can't help you at all. Like you're too far off. I don't know what cave you came in from 1995, but we're talking about something specific here. The girl caught in the bus door seemed off. All of it seemed off. The tree opening up felt really off. Like the garage looked weird. It had like a smokestack sticking out of it. There was a lot of weird stuff there. A lot of the hate towards AI, specifically towards generative AI. I agree, and that's really where I'm at. Is I don't even hate generative AI. I really don't. I hate dishonesty, and what it is AI bros are mega dishonest. Is they really, really, really want to pretend like what they're doing is not worthless garbage, and it is. Like it's not something anyone can do. Like my son, let me show you an image my son generated for fun. He had Grok draw this. This is the proper verbiage, by the way. It's like not my son made this. It's Grok drew this. So let's find it, and I'll show it to you. If X is going to work today. I don't know if it's going to work today. Okay. Because of some jokes that we were telling last night. Let's see if you can see that. Let's get that light off there. It's a Khajiit. You want goth girlfriends? We have many goth girlfriends for you. And so that was his idea, was like a Khajiit selling goth girlfriends. Right. It's silly. It's fun. It looks okay for what it is. It's just a meme. And you can just make those things. You can just have the robot draw you a picture, and it's fun. But the problem is that he wouldn't say, I drew this. Like I got a pen out and drew this. But that's what AI artists do, is they're pretending to do something different with what they're doing. They're pretending to write. They're pretending to draw. And they want you to believe that this requires skill or effort when anybody can do it. That's the whole point. The whole point is to like democratize making an image, right? My 6-year-old can make images with an AI. If a 6-year-old can do the same thing you're doing, it doesn't require skill or effort. It really doesn't. You just got to be fucking honest with yourselves, okay? And yeah, you got to knock your ego down a peg, and stop pretending that asking a robot, giving instructions to a robot is doing work. It's not. Just it'd be like a guy coming home from work. Oh, man, I worked so hard yelling at the Mexicans picking my tomatoes. I mean, you know how hard it is to go out there, sit in the shade with a megaphone, and yell racial epithets at the Mexicans to get them to pick the tomatoes? It's really hard work. I work harder than them, in fact. I'm a harder worker than the people picking the tomatoes. And I'm a better tomato picker than any of them, because look how many tomatoes I picked. I picked a whole truckload of tomatoes. Yes, by hiring Mexicans to pick the tomatoes is what you did. You hired farm workers and they picked the tomatoes. I picked them. Well, I had to give them very special instructions for how to pick the tomatoes. I'm like, I'm sure you did. I'm sure the people who have picked tomatoes before needed your special instructions to pick the tomatoes. And that you have very special way of getting them to pick more tomatoes than other people. And that your truckload of tomatoes it's not. It's not. It's like, that's the best analogy I could present you with. An analogy is not really an argument, but it's like, make you understand the point. In order for you to do a thing, you have to do that thing in some way. Drawing requires, moving a hand, not talking words. Talking words is not drawing. That's talking words. Typing words is not drawing. That's typing words. You understand? Like, verbs mean things. So I just hate that people lie. And that's what it is that we're in this kind of intermediary space where people want to lie about what they're doing, and they want to lie about what their skills are, and they want to lie and feel important, and lie and feel special. I'm aware of it because I'm in the indie author space. I'm trying to get out of it, right? Or I'm taking a break from it, let's say. And it's one of the most dishonest industries I've ever seen. And I say that as someone who was in the music industry. It's mostly people who are completely fake. They're faking what they are. They're faking what they do because they have this ego that they got to serve. So it's all fake. It's turtles all the way down, Given how sophisticated vids like, I lost the chat. Given how sophisticated vids like this, I fear that the age of infinite on-demand slop will be upon us much sooner than one would like. Now, that's an excellent comment. Amazon, I think, is already working on that. And so the next step, of course, is that the algorithm, rather than showing you my content or like a creator's content, or even AI made by a creator, if you want to use that word, rather than showing you something that somebody put on their site, they'll just make you a new thing. So you're watching the things and it will just do that. It'll just make you a thing. And we're kind of already there. So that I'll actually use this to transition into talking about another piece of AI. Let me see if I can find it here really fast. It'll be in my other window. So this was an announcement by XAI, which does Grok, right? Which is the ability to put integrated ads. Now, if you remember those Cerveza Cristal ads from, the Star Wars in Chile. Here, let's take a look at this. So it's just gonna have like characters in your show, like hold up a Coca-Cola. It's gonna have characters in your show like hold up a bottle of antidepressants and tell you to take them. Make sure we have the volume up on this. Right, here's an example. So this is our future. This is our AI advertising future. Drink Coca-Cola, baby. Drink Coca-Cola, right? The AI will just integrate the ads into the actual content. Now that looked uncanny and weird, but it had the correct effect, which is like it doesn't break you out. It just shows you the product in the middle of the content. Now, I find this very disturbing, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, right? So here's Joey. He puts on some Beats headphones, right? And then you can click the ad and buy the Beats headphones. You could buy the Beats headphones because Joey used them. So my main reaction is like, this is disturbing. I'm okay with ads, but I'm usually like, I kind of like ads to be in a separate, honest space because I like honesty. If you have a paid product placement, I think it's good to disclose that. Now, I don't have any paid product placements. Buy my books. You can buy my books. That's a paid product placement, but that's mine, right? You could buy this wonderful book right here, Afterglow, Generation Y, because it was near me. Okay. You get what I'm talking about here. That's pretty disturbing, but that's where we're heading. We're going to have the ability for the AI to generate something on the fly for you right here, right now, on demand image and video generation. That's where we're headed if compute continues to go up. There's a danger to extrapolation, but obviously the ability to put Coca-Cola in the ads we're here. We've arrived, baby. So you can be watching Back to the Future and he can hold up a Coca-Cola and smile at the camera and say, click for more. And then the thing will go on. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm referencing for the Cerveza Cristal ads, I will quickly show them to you. So let me find those. Yeah, I have them here on YouTube. Hopefully we don't get like a copyright issue for them. Here we go. Okay, so here's like Cerveza Cristal. So this was these were ads done in Chile when they showed Star Wars on TV. So I'll just show you one real quick because they're pretty funny. So they just would integrate these. They would integrate these beer ads into the movie.
I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
This one, the first one's really good. It's really funny.
I wish I'd known him. He was the best star pilot
Uh-oh, there he goes.
the galaxy. And a cunning warrior.
Cunning warrior.
I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself. And he was a good friend. Which reminds me, I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough.
It's perfect. It's perfect, right? Isn't that perfect? Now, there's some other ones. Let me show you the second best one, which just... All right. The Tauntaun is dead. Tauntaun's dead, guys, okay? This one is really funny. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, here we go. Okay, yeah. He's going to cut open the Tauntaun. Out comes the beers! Out comes the beer! Alright, you get the idea. They have one where like the emperor like levitates a Cerveza Cristal to his hands. It's all very funny, right? So yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and we'll move on from there. So that's the next place we're arriving is like the AI. Yes, the AI could generate the slop for you on the fly. That's where I think we're going to go. And if you're a corporation, you could think what's a great value here about that is that you can cut out the middleman. You don't have to pay content creators to make compelling content. You can just make the content with your AI credits, right? You can just deliver it on the fly to the user. That means you get to keep all the money. You don't have to pay out. If you can make an AI artist on Spotify, you can make an AI influencer, or you can just have AI slop that people like to watch, AI girls in bikinis walking around, whatever you want, then you just do that. And then you can avoid paying whoever uploads those videos. You get to keep 100% of the money. This is called vertical integration in other industries, right? If you have the shop, if you have the drugstore like CVS, you own the drugstore and you own the drug distributor. Vertical integration, you own every step of the way, which means you get to keep more of the money. So where you would have a distributor keep some money and the retailer would keep some money, you can keep all, and you can run you can compete better because you can have narrower margins because you can save a little money here. You can have the price be a little lower here, and you can make it up in the fact that you don't have to pay a distributor to do things. Okay, so that's what we call vertical integration. So John Doe, I'm going to go ahead and block you out of charity because we're talking about something specific and you're being an idiot. Okay. When the camera was invented, painters were livid. Now I'm going to tell you something about painters. You guys, there's a device, and I'm trying to remember what it's called, but most portrait painters would actually trace. Little known fact that they were tracers. So they used this device which would allow you to see, basically you could see an overlapping image of your canvas or your hand, and you could see your subject, and you would just literally trace over it. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It used a mirror. There was a company that tried to, sell them. You can make them at home. But that's what, if you're like, man, these guys who did these like drawings back in the 1700s of like wildlife that they found while they were on a ship in the Galapagos or something, how were they such good artists? And the answer was they actually traced. So that's a big part of it, is that they had some artistic training. Everybody who went to college did. Every educated man did like some basic art, but really you would also trace. So just a little side thing there is that a lot of portraits back in the day were done very quickly, and they were done with this device that would allow you to basically trace real life using a mirror. What's the end game? Corpos are laying people off for AI to boost productivity to make stuff people have no money. Do corporates just want to trade money amongst themselves forever? Well, this is the there's a name for this paradox, but I'm coming up short for what the name is. It's sort of like the prisoner's dilemma, is that it'd be better if everybody didn't do it. But if one person does it, they get all the benefits. So everybody understands that you can't expect everybody to automatically restrict their maximizing of profits, even though that might be better for everyone in the long run. And instead, everybody has to pursue it because that's the way it works. It's like, well, other companies going to do this, which means we really have to do it in order to compete. Like we have to do it so that we can save the money, so that we can save the labor, or we're going to get run out of the market. Now, there's some debate as to whether large language models have increased productivity at all in any sector. That's a whole nother discussion. We're mostly talking about generative AI, which is more in the wheelhouse of this channel. But there is a question as to whether it's produced any actual benefit. So large language models, coding, for instance, require a lot of human interaction with that code that they produce in order for it to be functional. There may not be a lot of labor savings there, if any. AI may create more problems with what it generates. If it's trying to generate briefs or if it's trying to generate documents, then you save trying to fix those documents because it hallucinates. And that's the big one, is that if you're relying on a large language model to deliver information to you, you can't trust it. It requires some sort of human intervention because it hallucinates. And as far as I know, there's no model that exists yet that doesn't hallucinate on some level, that doesn't that's not built into how they work. The best that you can do is that you have robust, and it has as few errors as possible, and you're able to have humans identify those errors. That's going to be like sort of the best use of LLMs right now. Other than the big things that we've talked about, like crunching data, like finding data points across basically sets of data that are too vast for one human to reasonably like take into themselves to consider. So if it can look at, if your AI can look at 100 million X-rays, it can start to identify the patterns in those X-rays, right? It can through the way the neural network works, versus a person who can only look at so many X-rays in the course of their career, like if they're a doctor or a radiographer or something like that. So there's a lot of use cases I think that we'll find for AI that are really, really useful, but I don't think generating images is a value add to the economy. It's a toy. And it could be a fun toy. It could be a value add for people that are really, really having to keep it slim. And this is what happened with the author world, is like cover designers were really upset about AI because it put them out of business. When authors realized, I can just ask an AI to make a better image than what you make in Photoshop, I'm just going to do that because it saves me $250. And it's really hard, to pay off that $250, let's say I have to sell 250 books. It's actually very, very difficult to sell 250 books. And some people pay a lot for their covers. They pay $1,500. I've paid, I'm trying to remember how much I've paid for my more expensive covers, and it's not cheap, but I knew guys that were like, $1,500 for this cover. It's like, okay, so that's a lot of books you have to sell just to pay for the cover before you start making any money. You're just paying for the cover. And that's not including like loss of money due to ad revenue or something like that, or not ad revenue, to having to run ads in order to sell the book, which cuts down on your royalties, things like that. So AI bros can't say that AI is a money saver by cutting jobs. It's more work for few people instead of the same work that requires more employees. I'm not so sure about that. But the whole point is to try to save labor. So when they're like, I'm working so hard at this, it's like, that's the point, is that you don't work hard at this. In fact, I don't believe you. In fact, I think you're a liar. And it's actually like, stayed up for 3 weeks. I'm like, did you stay up for 3 weeks smoking pot and watching South Park and maybe throwing a couple of sentences at the robot until this crap came out? Like, what did you really do? It's like I'm refining my prompt. I actually did this live quite a while ago. I'm like, okay, let's talk about refining prompts. I did the same prompt like 8 times in a row, and it generated wildly different results. And then we took the same prompt and we like altered it a couple of times, and it generated like the same results as just a different prompt. So like really refining prompts is just running a lot of prompts until you kind of, the randomness kind of works out to where you get something that you want, and then hopefully you can use that. There's really not much to writing prompts. And one of the biggest grifts, the way that you can tell you're in a grift, so the mode of any industry like this, and we saw with indie fiction, is the early adopters, the people that are early to it, can make a little money doing it. And then it becomes about the grift. And the grift is selling things like author services, selling courses for how to sell books, selling courses on how to write your books, selling courses on how to run AdWords on Amazon. So the AI grift, we're already in the AI grift phase, which is selling books, selling courses on how to prompt, how to ask the robot in the correct magic spell to produce what you want to produce. The point of the large language model is that you don't have to do that. Right? The point of the large language model is that it doesn't require a lot of specialized knowledge. That's the entire point of it. And so if you have to have specialized knowledge, that means that the LLM really has a lot of development still to go. But I actually don't think you do. I think even early versions of ChatGPT, you didn't need special skills to prompt. The more, really what it came down to is like, the more specific your prompt is, the more specific the result is going to be. And you should just learn to do that. And then if you get too specific or have too many things, then it won't be able to compute it either. Same idea. I'm more worried about AI being used as a surveillance tool. That's one of the things about surveillance. I've heard that as well, is that AI could possibly process enough surveillance data to do things with it. Whereas right now, it's like our Alexa is listening to us. There's so much data. Amazon can't do anything with your Alexa listening to you. There's nothing useful there because it's too much. It's too much of an overwhelming set. $5 from SpongeBoy Me Bob. Thank you. I really hate how the military is starting to experiment with AI. That's going to have some horrifying implications. I don't know exactly what's going on with that or what they're going to do with it, but there's always a belief whenever you're talking about international competition with the military is that you have to be able to keep up with what the other side is doing. Yeah, nuclear bombs are horrific, but you need nuclear bombs because the other guys have nuclear bombs. So you need a deterrent, right? If you don't like Chinese AI, then you need to have an AI that's going to be able to counter that or be used in a way that will help them along. What's the actual intended use of LLMs? Excellent question. I gave you a couple, but there aren't any specific ones. They are marketed as this thing that can help with productivity, but I wonder what they had in mind. I don't think they help with as much productivity as they want. So it would be a labor saver. That's the quote, help with productivity, is that you can save labor. So if you could get the large language model to, I have a friend my brother-in-law is still a teacher, and we were complaining about this. Somebody was coming and saying, teachers need to be using AI to make these handouts and do this sort of stuff. And it's like, you spent as much time asking the AI to make a thing and then trying to fix what the AI did than you would have just you're making the handout. And the other thing, teachers are like, I don't need the AI to make handouts. I made the handouts 20 years ago. They're the same handouts. They're just as good, right? I don't need the AI to make a new handout. I already have the handouts. I don't need the AI to come up with more math problems. We have lots of math problems. Like, I don't need the AI to write a math lesson. Nothing is new in math. I've been teaching math for 20 years. It's the same as it's always been. There's no use case. There's no authentic use case for like most teachers. The only counterexample would be a teacher who literally has no teaching materials and can't get them from somewhere else. The internet is full of teaching materials that people already made. You know, are you going to use AI to grade the papers? Well, that's stupid. The kids are going to use AI to write the papers. I've already gone over how you fix this, which is you have the kid write the essay in front of you in a blue book or on a piece of paper, and then you grade it by reading it. Maybe you could have the AI read handwriting, but I think as a teacher, you're just going to have to grade papers. You know, and it's not like teachers have prep periods and they only work, you know, they have a 7-hour day and one of those hours is a prep period. And they're usually required to stay after school anyway. So they, you know, figuring out how to grade papers in that time, that's part of the teaching profession, always has been. Teachers that complain about having to grade papers until 8 o'clock at night are just not very good at using their time, in my opinion, having been a teacher. And had been a teacher with a very time-intensive focus, which is music, where I have to be dealing with after-school rehearsals and shit like that. It's way more time-intensive than most things, you know? AI bros are the whole I want to be an author shtick. Yep. They want to be able to call themselves something without doing the actual work involved. Yep. Twin Peaks did a Japanese series of coffee ads. I remember this now that you bring it up. And I remember thinking it was funny that they did that. People want to say they've written a novel without having to do the work of writing a novel. That's the dream of the AI author. I'm sorry, that's the dream of the indie author. And they've been doing it forever. Like, can I get a ghostwriter from the Philippines to write me these 12 novels and I will outline them because I am special? And your outline it might as well be generated by AI. It's like Save the Cat formulaic garbage. It's nothing original about it. But, you know, you identify the micro niche. You have the Filipino graduate student write you the books for cheap, and then you put them out with your name on it. Like, I am an author. No. You're a publisher. Like, yeah, you're a publisher, but you're not an author. Have you seen the AI generated Nike commercial? I haven't. No, it wasn't actually made by Nike though. Yeah. So this one was, I think all of these are made by other firms, but like, yeah, not made by Nike's. I wonder how effective ads really are. I know at least a few people who get inspired to never buy the product out of spite because ads are intrusive or annoying. Yes, I think this is the thing. Is like, if an ad is straight up annoying like this one is, or it feels insulting, then it hurts the brand. It really does. How's my Christmas season so far? It's busy. I haven't done nearly enough stuff. I'm not a big fan of the Christmas season. People who've been around know that. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm tolerating it just fine. I know there are people who wouldn't care about getting AI advertised too, but if the actor of a movie I've watched before turns to the camera and Hawk swears, I think I'm just turning the movie off. Someone at work, software engineer, posted an article about using psychological prompting tricks to improve LLM output quality. It's like actual magic incantations at this point. Yeah, oh yeah, that's the biggest grift is like, if you use my special words. And I remember experimenting with this stuff with Midjourney, right? People are like, you got to put 4K in here and put this and put Unreal Engine. And it's like, I realized that those things don't do anything. And what they're doing is it's this thing where there's no control. They're experimenting without a control. So they're just having lots of images get generated. And then they're like, well, I liked the one where I put this word in, so I'll keep using that word. And they're not really thinking about what that means. They just know like, oh, if I put 4K in it, then that does something. It's like, no, you can write sharp, you can write photorealistic, and that works. Just defining the style. You can say generate an image in the style of Waterhouse with visible brush strokes, you know, in this style with a woman that looks like this. She has and then all of a sudden that image comes out. You're like, oh, it's perfect. We just have to be specific. And And sometimes specific, it doesn't work, and the LLM can't do it, and that's okay too. Yeah, no, that's what I call a cold one. Cerveza Cristal. And when it goes to Pepsi on the table or billboard, but having a character stop to tell me to drink Pepsi, especially when it's been added in post, revolts me to the bone. Yeah, I think it's kind of disturbing. Yeah. Many of the people I've known who want to be authors seem to mostly want to be seen as smart. Actually, writing was not the point. Yes, very good point. I have made that point before, is that it's about an ego. It's like, I want to be able to introduce myself as, I'm an author. I never tell people what I do unless they like are really like, so what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I like teach my kids. And it's like, is that just what you do? And like, oh yeah, I do write books. How many books have you written? I don't know, a bunch. And then eventually it comes out. It's like, oh, these are all the things I've done. Like, okay, but I don't lead with that because people are impressed for a minute. But think about how often you're impressed by other people's professions. And like anybody that's successful or good at what they do, I find impressive. And someone's like, I'm a doctor. I'm like, oh, that's great. It's like, oh, I have a landscape business. Oh, cool. You run your own business. Like you're a landscaper. That's awesome. Landscaping business seems like a cool business to run. It's just cutting people's yards, but you get to run your business and provide some useful service to people. That's cool. Whatever it is, people are impressed by the author shtick for a minute and then you move on. Photography is not art because all you have to do is point and push a button on a machine. I think you can make that point. Photography is not painting though. Let's be like really specific though. And I've said this before, 90% of a good photo is just picking a good subject. No one likes to hear this about the composition or framing. Those are good techniques. It's good to know those. But like, if you have a really amateur guy who's never really done anything with a camera and he points his camera at a really beautiful woman who smiles really well, it's like, this guy's a great photographer. No, the subject is really beautiful. You could take a really beautiful everybody has a camera in their pocket and we're like flooded with bad photography. But photographers don't call themselves artists. They call themselves photographers. So whether or not photography is an art, right? Like a musician doesn't call himself an artist. He doesn't mean like a painter, right? He doesn't call himself a painter unless he paints pictures. He calls himself a musician. A photographer calls himself a photographer. Like the verbiage means things. Obi-Wan wanted to drink some Cerveza Cristal. He was old enough. He turned 21. Let me give you your first beer because Dad's not here. Dad's gone. Camera Lucida, thank you. That's the it's a mirror that you can use to basically, you can see your subject. You put the mirror on one side and you can see your paper down here, and you can look at your subject with your other eye, and you can basically trace real life. It's very, very useful. And it's great if you, even a more talented artist can use it to get like a sketch of something. There's lots of ways. How do you do a big mural? Well, you actually project it. I've done that before. You start with a small drawing and then you project it on the wall and then you draw it. The shift from analog effects to CGI eliminated a lot of traditional art roles in movie making: painters, modelers, architects, puppeteers, animators, etc. That's a good point. One could make a point that those things were replaced with like digital animators, and like digital effects is very expensive. So I don't know. Tragedy of the Commons. That's what I'm talking about. So here's the tragedy of the commons, is that you have a common area where people can graze their animals. Now, if everybody grazes judiciously, the commons can be maintained indefinitely. But what people do is instead they try to use the commons as much as possible so that they can reserve their own fields for to grow crops and be higher quality for their own cattle, to like basically maximize. So they're fenced off private land. They want to use that last, and you want to use the commons first. So the result is the commons are completely grazed clean. They're useless. They're dirt. You can't do anything with the commons. Whereas everybody's private land is really well maintained and carefully, I guess, you're careful with the crops, carefully plowed, carefully maintained. So that's the tragedy of the commons. So thank you. That's what I was thinking of. AI has saved me a lot of time by writing code I used to automate tedious computer tasks that used to eat away at a lot of time. It takes a while to bug fix, but it saves hours a week thereafter. I hate saying AI hallucinated. AI got it wrong. The wordplay using hallucinate is a mind trick. Well, it's really a metaphor because it can't hallucinate because it doesn't have senses. So hallucination is your senses. It's a sensory thing. AI doesn't have senses. It doesn't think. It doesn't feel. LLMs are computer programs. So they can't actually hallucinate. But we use it because it's the closest thing, which means it just said something that it made up. It just made it up. Because it works on this, the way the neural network works, it has a lot to do with probability. And the probability can just point to the wrong thing. So I think hallucinated, it's just a metaphorical word, right? We know that computer programs don't hallucinate. I do think there's a danger, though, to saying like the AI is thinking or the computer's thinking. The computer never thinks. It doesn't have consciousness. It doesn't hallucinate. There's a danger to using these words because then you start to think that these are actually intelligent, that they are artificial intelligence and not large language models that use a language interface. You put in language and then it does things. Why are there courses out there for selling AI books? Because people are stupid. That's why people are stupid and lazy and have huge egos. So you combine lazy, low skill, big ego. You got a rube. And if you got a rube, if you got a mark, you've got a grifter. If you got a mark, you got a scammer. So the marks are really easy because the indie writer space is full of marks. They're people that have a big ego. They want to believe that they are special. More importantly, they want other people to believe they're special. Because it's kind of the difference between, we talked about this, the difference between shame and guilt. They want to believe they're special. So they will pay a lot of money in order for other people to believe they're special. So it's the same thing with AI writing. This is like the scene from The Truman Show where he's having a breakdown and his wife picks up something and talks about it and like she's advertising it because she is, and Truman's confused. Yeah. Maybe AI will help stupid people become average. I think what's more likely is AI will make average people stupid. So the stupid people won't really know how to use a large language model because their language processing is too low. So if you're 85 IQ, 80 IQ, you're just not really going to get anything out of the AI. It's just not, you're going to barely use it because you won't know how to talk to it. The people who are 100, 115 IQ, they're going to get remarkably stupider because they won't be able to retain the knowledge that they're using. They'll become, in essence, the AI could use them as robots. I had that in one of my books. So I think it's the opposite. I think normal people will get much stupider. And I think there's already research coming out that shows that people who use AI a lot, they get stupider. So people are going to get, they're going to lose knowledge. They're going to lose wisdom. They're going to lose skills by using AI, and they're going to lose touch with reality possibly by using AI. But that's the normal people. You have to have a minimum level of intelligence to even interface with these programs. So the people who are stupid are going to be pretty grounded, actually. So I think that, the bell curve meme, the midwit meme, it's going to be more pronounced, where the midwits are going to get remarkably stupid, much stupider. The people, and I think the people just smart enough to know how to use an AI are the biggest marks. So they're going to get a lot dumber. They're going to go from like operating at 100 IQ to they're 100 IQ, but they operate as if they have 85 IQ. AI is kind of like aliens. It's been mythologized by pop culture. Yeah, we're talking about programs. We're not talking about, Skynet, the mythology of Skynet. When corporations use AI, it usually looks worse. Disney's use of deepfakes in Indy 5 and the Coke commercial don't look nearly as good as what some hobbyists have made with AI. I wonder why that is. I feel that way too. And I wonder why that is. I wonder if that's, the whole point is like, I don't know. I wonder why that is. I might have some hypotheses, but I don't know why. A teacher use case, add images to old handouts. The internet already has infinite images. You didn't actually need AI to make the images though. It's true. There's no AI images that have been generated. The only reason that I've used AI images for like thumbnails is like it makes a new, like I could just, it's not really necessary for most things. Now that I think about it, like I think I used AI to make like an empty movie theater because I just didn't want to get one off of Google that was copyrighted. I think that was it, you know, but no one cares about for an educational handout. No one's getting sued. You can use things for educational purposes. You're allowed to. That's part of fair use. So you can use that image as long as it's not a substantial part of your handout. You can add whatever image you want to under fair use, and you're usually good to go. Did landscaping as a teenager for my friend's dad who owned his own business. Never been so tired at a day's end. It's hard work. It's hard work, man. I've worked factory jobs, worked carpentry jobs. I've worked as a fabricationist. I've worked some dirty jobs. You know, I always get tired, but it feels good. It's tired in a good way a lot of times. I'm fairly shy to say I compose music or write stories in public. Not that I think my stuff is bad, but I just know they're not that interested. I'm cool with that. Yeah. And the thing is, usually they're interested in it if you're successful. It's a success thing, right? That, you know, if I was out somewhere with John Dolmayan, which I've, you know, I'm not friends with John Dolmayan, but he's like a friend of a friend. And so I've been and had dinner with John Dolmayan. And if someone didn't know him and he's like, I play drums, they'd be like, oh, that's cool. And they move on. If they recognize him, they're like, you have sold millions of records. And all of a sudden he's this more interesting guy. And it's not because he plays drums. It's because he's the drummer for System of a Down. You kind of get what I'm saying? So, and I figured this out with like when I was single, as women kind of probe about that. They ask about what you do to figure out if you're successful. And they're only really interested in it if you're like really successful doing it. You know? So if they feel that there's a success, a monetary success attached to what you're doing, all of a sudden it's really cool that you're a musician. You know, if you make money as a musician, they think it's cool. But if you're like, yeah, I'm a musician and I just play guitar sometimes. I put out an album. I made $25 last month. They're like, okay, what do you do though? You know, oh, you're a teacher. I'm a teacher. All right, I'm out of time. I gotta finish this up. Okay. Last one from Impreb. And learning how to patching in multiple layers of different AI systems to get stuff done. Okay. I may know the study you're talking about. It had students who learned hard on LLMs getting worse over students who went without. However, if used as a tool to improve studying, it had more promise. I don't know how you improve studying with it. Maybe you could use it to like generate quizzes. I could think of actually a lot of use cases for it. Generate me a quiz. Quiz me on this information. ChatGPT or whatever LLM it is. Cool. But what do kids actually want to use AI for? They're not like, I want to give quizzes. What they want is like, I want this to write my essay for me so I don't have to do it, so that I don't have to think about it, so that I don't have to learn. Kids want as little education for their money and their time as possible. Yeah. All right. That's it for this time. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna fix some dinner for my wife. Let's get some music going here. Boom. All right. Boom. Yeah. Let me link that. Grab the music channel. There was more stuff I was going to talk about, but this is probably good. They're making a new Minari movie. It's going to be shit. You know it's going to be shit. What else have they got going on? You know, bunch of other things that are garbage. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're making a Cinderella movie about how the stepsisters are misunderstood. You guys all saw that one coming a mile away. Stupid garbage. Time to move on. Let me link my Substack. Let me link the Patreon. We'll link a book too. Let's link a book. Why not? You can get a book. It's better if you search the book because it does better things for me. But what's a good one? Let's do... Oh, King Leper. You guys gotta read King Leper. Gotta read King Leper. It's a great book. All right. There's that. Have a great one, folks. I'll see y'all next time. See you next week. Next week, We are coming up on the 10-year anniversary of The Force Awakens, so I'm going to talk about that. Have a great one.